What if I told you I just built 2 new features for my YouTube SaaS tool in 30 minutes just by talking to AI? In this video, I'll show you how I added automatic description generation and automatic chapter creation to my SaaS just using my voice with Claude Code and MCPs. If you feel like you're getting left behind because you can't code, this video is for you. I'm building out this entire SaaS live on this channel from 0 to paid users. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started where I left off. We got the project set up where we don't actually have anything here yet. I can't actually update the description. Let's update this so that it actually works. And I also want to add in not just the transcript. So when we create a new project, we can title, description, and transcript, but we should also be able to add the SRT file. We need the SRT file for generating the chapters because we need those time codes. Transcripts don't contain time codes. And I'm going to use Whisperflow to dictate all the prompts. So we need to do a bit of cleanup on the app in terms of the project metadata. When I go to the project metadata page, there's no form there for me to actually configure or change the settings. So we need to be able to update the settings, the title, the description, and the transcript. However, I want to change it from a transcript to an SRT file. I would much rather have the SRT file than the transcript because we need the time codes for creating the chapters for the YouTube video. Take a look at not only the new project form where we have the intake form where it has transcripts, we need to update that label there, but we also need to actually build out the project metadata page so that we can update the project after it's created. Go ahead and review the code, come up with a plan, relay it back to me, and then we'll move on. So it looks like I didn't have my cursor there, but luckily because I'm using Whisperflow, should be able to open that up. And this is why I like this app. I can just copy it and drop it here. And I'm gonna go ahead and do a shift tab into plan mode. All right, so we've got our new plan here. Let's take a look what I found. What needs to be built: replace the placeholder metadata page with a fully functional editing form. Consider adding quick edit to the project details. So it's suggesting that maybe we have a quick edit, but I'm not exactly sure where we would have that unless it's referring to this here. I don't really want to edit it here. That could be something that we do later. I'm going to clarify here where I'm not exactly sure what it's asking or proposing. Could you clarify what you mean here on point 2? Copy that in there. All right, so it was referring to the main project page. It was referring to this here, which isn't actually in the breadcrumb. That's why I couldn't find it. So what it's suggesting is, should we be able to just edit that data from here? Or should there be an edit link? There probably should at least be an edit link. And based on my question, it seems like we're arriving at the same conclusion here. So I think we're ready to roll. So we'll go ahead and proceed and we'll auto accept the edits. And while it's doing that, I'm just going to check out the app. So what I need to do here, so some of the things that I've noticed here is that these settings are more like the account settings when they should be application settings. So I think we'll end up having like a breadcrumb for like different types of templates that we might have, like might have different types of descriptions. Whereas these settings here really to me are more like your profile settings or your billing settings or those types of settings, not so much the application settings. We're going to come back to the data library last. I want to get all the main functionality done first. I also wonder if we should have a project details page, because once I come here, there's no way to really get back to that main page. All right, so it says it's done. Let's see if we have a change here. Okay, so we have the edit details, project title, description, test, and then the SRT file. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab an SRT file from my content system here. It automatically creates a transcript and an SRT file. We'll drop that here. Now, one thing I want to mention, long-term, I want to be able to just upload a file. Copying and pasting a SRT file like this isn't ideal, but at the same time, this is a lot easier to get started. The difficult part for creating chapters is not so much the uploading process, but it's processing this SRT file correctly. So in order to streamline development, I'm just continuing to prioritize what's important, which is the feature actually working properly. So let's see if I can save it. Actually, from a usability standpoint, you can see this is really not very good. Failed to update project. It could be that this is just way too long for the field type inside of the database. I had an error trying to update the metadata for the project details. I'll go ahead and paste the console error if that's helpful as well. I'm also going to remind it has access to the database through the MCP. I also want to remind you have access to the Supabase database through the MCP if you want to just use that to correct the query if you need to. Got it. So it had the transcript as a column instead of the SRT file. Just one quick usability issue that I wonder if you could help me with. When I inserted the SRT file into the text box, the text box expanded to the full length of the SRT file, which was quite long. Is there a way we can just put a max length? I don't mind expanding the box a little bit, but can we put a max length or height on that box so that it doesn't just become pages and pages of scrolling? Now, one other thing I want to mention as well is that I don't really like the idea of calling the column SRT file. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. So there's a part of me that doesn't like that, but I'm trying not to get caught up in some of those perfectionist tendencies. Like, I really don't like having to cut and paste it either. I'd much rather have an upload box, but I'm trying to put some of that stuff off until later on when it's more important. All right, so looks like we corrected that issue, which is cool. Let's see if we can save it now. All right, so that's saved perfectly. And now we have the edit project over here, so that's cool. So if we click this, it basically comes down here, back to project. So one thing that I'm noticing here is that the metadata project setup has this back to projects, but nothing else does, when it seems like that should be just like a basic thing. So I'm noticing in the project edit page, there's a link that takes you back to the main project page. Is that custom to the metadata edit page, or is that something that's more generic that all the pages could share? Because I noticed that the other pages do not have that, and it's kind of nice to be able to get back to that main project page. So it noticed that. Now, the only thing is that it should probably be a generic solution so that we don't have to edit each page. I'll go ahead and wait to see what it does. So it's trying to determine the best approach for adding a consistent back navigation. Perfect. So I found some really interesting insights. You're absolutely right that the back navigation is inconsistent. And there's actually an unused breadcrumb component that would be perfect for this. Current solution inconsistent, only metadata page. There's already a sophisticated breadcrumb component. We created that in a previous video. And so we're going to go ahead with option 1. Let's go ahead and implement option 1. I do want to confirm with you before you move on, though, that this is a simple solution and not something that's going to create a lot of problems. So it's a very simple and safe solution. I also wanted to make sure, is this something that will be generic, or do we have to make edits on every single page? Ideally, it's something that we do once and it applies to all the pages that we create in the project structure. Is that right? So these are the small things you want to communicate with the AI to make sure that it's building correctly. And it's saying, yes, exactly right. This is a one-time implementation that applies to all the project pages. Yep, let's go ahead and implement it. And now it's going to remove that custom link that was on the metadata page. So let's take a look. So we actually have a breadcrumb here, which is what we implemented before. I just didn't catch that we didn't actually have it. So we can go back to test and then projects. That's cool. That was kind of interesting. You see that little ID that popped up there for a second? It's kind of curious what happened there. Project metadata, title, description. I'm just going to ask it about that. When I go into a new project, I notice that momentarily it shows the project ID instead of the title. Any idea why that shows up and then it instantly, in the breadcrumb I'm talking about, goes back to the title? So it doesn't know why that happens. Option 1 is just accept it, simplest. Option 2 is loading state, better UX. Show a loading placeholder instead of the ID. Option 3, prefetch the data. Which approach would you prefer? Is option 2 going to add a lot of complexity? And is that going to happen on every page? It seems like a little bit of a heavy solution when this should be a pretty normal and simple thing to have happen. So sometimes, like, you got to use your common sense. Like, this seems like something that should be just built in. Like, it shouldn't be so complex. And when you feel that, you should voice that. You're absolutely right. Option 2 would add unnecessary complexity for what should be a simple standard web behavior. Reality check, flash duration, barely noticeable, frequency. The right solution, just live with it. This is completely normal web behavior. The flash is actually good UX, shows immediate feedback. I don't know that I agree, but I don't know that this is something that I want to worry about too much right now. So this could be just a situation where I say, could you go ahead and create a GitHub issue for this particular flash and we'll revisit it later? All right, so there we go. So now that we have the project metadata, what I'd like to do is create the functionality for the descriptions, then we'll do the chapters and then also the intro script. So next we'll create the functionality for the generate description. And so this would be the description for a YouTube video. So I do have a standard format for my YouTube videos. So the first thing I need to do is decide where I put those templates, because it's not a project related setting. It's really more about the application in general. And it's not so much about my user account, which is up here, where we have our profile settings. I guess this settings really is, what do we have here? What is the profile? Okay, so that's a little bit different. I guess these settings are the same, which is fine. I don't know that we need account information, preferences, actions. That should really live in the profile. So let's clean this up a bit. This section here should really be in the profile. We should remove this, and then we need to create a form for being able to put in a template for our YouTube descriptions. Now, thinking ahead, I could imagine that we want to have several different sections for different types of templates. Like we might have a template for brand number one, for maybe it's for different clients. Maybe it's because you have two different brands or two different YouTube channels. But again, I'm going to try to keep it simple here. So just so I can see this while I dictate, I'm going to move it over, come back to the code. Okay, before we move on to updating the feature for generating the project/YouTube description, we need to create a form that allows us to put in the template that we use for our YouTube videos. Now, there's a discrepancy in the system for the settings page. Actually, what I'm realizing here is that I can dictate and then just copy it in. That way I can see it. The current settings page has account information and preferences and actions. Those all really belong in the profile page. So can we move all of those into the profile page? Although the account information seems redundant, there's already something over there for that. So take a look at the current settings page. Move over the preferences and the actions over to that profile. And then we need to add a form here for our default YouTube description template. So that'll dictate, and then I can come over to Whisperflow. I can paste that here. Please review the situation and come up with the plan. These would really be user profile settings. So this would be the default YouTube description template. I believe that would go into the user profile. Down the line, we might want to make that more complex if we have multiple brands or multiple YouTube channels. But for now, let's keep it simple and you can just have one template. So I'm going to move this back to plan mode. Send that in. All right, so we have our plan here, settings and profile page reorganization, add the YouTube description template to user profiles, add user preferences table with the fields. I guess maybe those weren't there before. I'm not sure why we need another table, however, because we do have a user profiles table. So I'm going to clarify that. I'm not sure we need two. Page reorganization strategy. We're going to move these over. Focus on user identity and content templates. Profile page, implementation tasks. Quick question for you. Why are you creating a new table for user preferences user preferences when we already have a user profiles table? Why do we need two different tables for this? All right, so we got a revised plan here. Let's go ahead and move forward. Again, as you notice, you just want to double check what it's doing and make sure you understand and verify things. Go ahead and execute. But having these MCPs installed for Supabase and also GitHub is really convenient because you don't have to do all of these commands yourself. You don't even have to think of all of this. This was all stuff I had to do by hand before. All right, so it looks like it's done. So let's take a look. We still have app preferences here in danger zone. Not supposed to be here. And we have in the profile, we have the YouTube description template. Perfect. And it made some assumptions here, so we need to fix that. And it's funny just how things happen here where it just adds these random things. On the new settings page, we have the app preferences and the danger zone, which should not be there. The only thing on the /settings page should be our YouTube description template. You also put some variables there on that form on the other page that I did not talk about and should be removed. We're just going to put a text description in there and we should be able to save that there. And then you actually put that form on the profile page. So you need to remove that from the profile page and bring it back to the settings page. And the danger zone should really be on the profile page. Although I don't think we really need that functionality right now anyway. So I can just dictate that and then I can go to Whisperflow. I can take this back to the code. Now, if you guys weren't watching me, I would be yelling at Claude Code right now, but hey. All right, so it says it's done. So here's our template. And it's just giving a reminder here, looking for your profile settings, and it's giving a link. That's cool. And we have this little characters thing here. I don't know that we need that, but I guess we have it. So we can save it. And I see we have another notification here, even though we have our notification system. So you got to pay attention to these little things. Accidentally left Claude Code. I always hate when that happens. Jump back in. I got to reset the context, of course. Just going to copy and paste what we were doing. That's frustrating, is what it is. So I'll go ahead and paste in some context from our previous conversation. I accidentally left Claude Code and all the context was lost. So I just pasted what we were just working on. We just finished some updates to the profile page actually to the settings page where we added a new default YouTube template, description template form. And I noticed that there is a notification that pops up above the form when it's successful, but we also have the Sonner and the Toast notification firing at the same time. We don't need both notifications, so please remove the extra notification above the form in the green box. And I'm going to go ahead and say yes, and then we'll move to auto accept. So that's one feature that Claude Code should definitely fix, is just being able to accidentally exit Claude Code and just lose everything. All right, so let's test this out. Save, template saved, and put 4, refresh, and let's double check our profile page. That's fine. We can leave this. I don't really care so much about this right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just come over here. I'm going to grab this template that I always use. So we'll come back here and I'll go ahead and paste in this template. I'm going to go ahead and make these checkboxes instead. Save template. So that's our default YouTube template. Now it's funny because I'm realizing now that I have 2 YouTube channels and I'm going to need 2 descriptions. So the perfectionist in me right now wants to add both of them, but I'm going to resist that because I really want to get the functionality right. And then I can come back and mess with these things. Sometimes building these apps is a strict order of priority because I can get this out to users that only have 1 YouTube channel first. Most people don't have 2 YouTube channels. They're just trying to get 1 off the ground. Now, what this is going to require is when I come to generate descriptions, we should be able to generate a description with that template using our project metadata. So for the description, I'm just going to go ahead and grab this SRT file, come over to Claude. Can you help me come up with a quick summary of what happened in this SRT transcription here? I just need a short description of what happened in the video. So we'll just copy this. So now in the metadata of our project, our test project here, we have a good description and we actually have the SRT file, and we can use one or both of these to generate the description itself. So I'm going to go ahead and describe what I need to have happen because there's quite a few things that we need to do here. We need to be able to trigger a backend N8N automation to actually generate the description from our template. Remember, our template includes our calls to action and just our general formatting that we have for every YouTube video. So I'm just going to articulate all that back to the dictation software, Whisperflow, and then we'll get going. Okay, now I need to update and add the functionality for the generate descriptions page. This is going to call an N8N automation on the back end. So in the env file, we'll need to add in a webhook that we can call, and we'll need to send it the information needed to generate a description, a YouTube description. The form that we create on the generate descriptions page should be able to pass the project metadata to the N8N automation. So in the project metadata, we have the project description, the SRT file, and we also need to have a freeform box for special instructions. Now, the N8N automation doesn't necessarily have the YouTube description template. It doesn't have access to it, so we should send that as well. We need to send those 4 items to the N8N automation. So let's go ahead and create the form that will send that. We also need to have the component that shows the actual descriptions that we generate, and those will be in the Supabase database in the content table. So use the MCP to look up anything that you need there. So we need to have those 2 components, the form where we send the request to N8N, and then the interface that shows all the descriptions that we have generated with a little link that allows us to copy it or delete it. And then we'll need to send a test request to N8N. I'll need to build out that functionality and return the response to you so you can actually add that to the database. So go ahead and take all of that in and then come up with the plan. Let's look at it, and then we'll go ahead and implement it, walk through the steps. I'll build out the N8N automation, and then we'll be done. So that was dictated. I'm going to go over to Whisperflow, come back to Claude Code. I'm going to go into plan mode. I'm going to paste that in, and let's go. All right, so here we have our plan. We're going to create a new route for the web call. We're going to add a new web call to the env file, which is right here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this now since we don't use Airtable anymore. All right, so this is looking good. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. All right, so here's our new plan. It's got our payload to N8N. It's passing the existing descriptions, which I don't really think we need. I'm just going to say no and just say that we don't need the existing descriptions. Looks good, except we don't need to pass on the existing descriptions. There's quite a bit of work to do here, but in my experience, it ends up doing this stuff fairly quickly. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to ChatGPT, and I'm going to ask it to help me come up with a user and system prompt for this ahead of time. I need to come up with a user and system prompt for converting a YouTube description or summary and an SRT of the YouTube video and potentially some special instructions. And I'll also send you the template for the final YouTube description that I want to have and be able to cut and paste into YouTube. I'm going to send you a summary of the video, the actual SRT file, special instructions, and the template. And I need a user and system prompt that will help me convert that into a good description that I can cut and paste into YouTube that is based off of the template that I give you. So please give me the user and system prompt for that and make it clear where I insert all of those different placeholders, either in the system or user prompt appropriately. So we'll go ahead and get that. We'll go ahead with this. Jump back to see how Claude's doing. All right, it says it's completed. So next step, set up your N8N automation to receive the webhook. And we have to add this here. So I'm going to copy this into the environment variable here, equals. So now I need to go back to N8N, jump back to the editor, and we'll create a new webhook, grab the test URL, bring it back to here. So now let's just jump over to the terminal. Do we have our new form here? So generate descriptions. Down the line, I'd like to have some customization here where we can say whether we want to send the SRT file or the summary. There's going to be some things we need to clean up, but I want to get this working. So generate descriptions. Let's go ahead and see if we can test this. I do believe because I changed the env file, I am going to have to restart this. So I'm going to go ahead and run the dev again. Should reload the environment variable just right there. We're waiting for a test webhook. Let's go ahead and test it. So I brought up this modal here. In some ways, I kind of like that because it allows us to change it before it sends it. It wasn't really what I was expecting. I'm going to get the functionality working first, and then maybe we'll come back and fix this. Although it's not including the template, that's a problem. When I know for sure we have one, right? We put it in here. So we do need to fix that. Nice. I exited Claude again. So let's get all the context. I just accidentally exited Claude and lost the context of where we were at. We were implementing a new feature. I've just pasted the context of our conversation previously where we left off. I'm noticing in the modal where I generate the descriptions before we send the webhook off to N8N that it is not including the YouTube description template that is set up in our settings page. So can you please update the modal to include that template so that when we send it to N8N, it will send that information. All right, so it says it's there. It's not. The modal does not include the template that we have defined in the database in the settings page. In fact, on the modal, I just pasted what is there. It says no YouTube template configured, but it is configured. I double checked. I go to the settings page, it's there. When I click on the modal, it's not there. So there is some discrepancy in the code where it's not pulling in the template from the database. All right, so it says it fixed it. Let's take a look, refresh. All right, there it is. I'm noticing it's not really respecting the new lines. That could be an issue. If we come to the settings, we have new lines here. I'm noticing in the pop-up modal that the new lines aren't represented in the text box, but they are in the settings. Is that going to be an issue? Are those new lines going to be passed back to the N8N automation? It would be better if we could see those in the modal. So it looks like they were there. They just weren't being formatted correctly. So now we're seeing it. We're also seeing some oddities with the special instructions here. It's not aligned properly. These are actually different types of fields here. And that's why this one is different. I'm going to redesign this anyway. So instead of looking at this and trying to fix this, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to get the N8N automation going, and then we can come back later, fix the UI, fix the way this is all working. So let's go back to N8N. Let's listen for a test event again. Let's send this through. Let's see what we get. So failed to generate the descriptions. That's because N8N isn't sending anything back, but nothing came through here. It could just be that this is actually my fault. I'll move that to a post. Try again. Now I can't see the button. Okay, so that was my issue. All right, so we have all the data now. We really need a simple request like this. I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste these down here. Let's reconnect them. And now I need to update the system prompt and the user prompt. So I'm gonna jump back to our ChatGPT discussion. So we have our system prompt here. I don't see any placeholders. Drop that here. And we'll grab our system prompt template, drop that here. It's already an expression, so we just need to come and put in the video summary, which is our project description. Again, this is where the terms start to bother me, where it says summary versus description. My OCD starts to go nuts, but I learned to just let it go. SRT description, See SRT transcript versus SRT file. That's driving me nuts. I'm not going to worry about it. Special instructions. We didn't have any, but I still need to put the placeholder. And the template description, which is right here. All right, cool. And we want a simplified output. Output is JSON. Let's go ahead and test this. All right, cool. So this is what our template was, which was about a completely different video, but this is the template. And now we're getting back a completely customized description. It is also including some hashtags, which we do not want. So I'm going to go into the system prompt, do not include any hashtags. You'll find that AI loves to add hashtags. If you mention social media, it's going to add those hashtags. All right, so now we have our final YouTube description minus the hashtags. And then all we need to do is respond back with that to the system. Drag that in there. Let's go ahead and save this. All right, so I'm going to come and execute the workflow, jump back to the app, generate description, jump back to N8N, generating the description, webhook, and there we go, successful, and there it is. All right, so from here, we should be able to add the generate chapters functionality pretty quickly now that we kind of reminded ourselves of the process. So we already have this endpoint, which I think we'll be able to copy pretty quickly. So I'm just going to jump back over to Visual Studio and let's just go through this as quickly as we can. All right, so now we need to move forward with the generate chapters. This is essentially going to follow the same format. In this case, the only thing that we need to send to the backend is the SRT file because that's the only thing that we need to analyze. And we'll make a response with the same responses that we had in the previous automation. And again, what we'll need to do is add a webhook. So we'll need to add that to the env file for generating the chapters. Then we'll send over the SRT file, we'll process it, we'll send it back, and then we can add those chapters to the page just like we did before. In this case, we don't need to create a modal. Let's just have a button that will produce or that will trigger the process because there's nothing really to look at. We're just going to send the captions or the SRT file over to N8N. Go ahead and review these instructions and set up a plan, and then we'll move forward after I approve it. So I'm just going to go into plan mode. All right, so here's our plan. Let's just take a look. Implement the components. It's going to create the route, chapter management, page integration, and everything else is looking good. So let's move forward. While this is processing, I'm going to head over to ChatGPT again, create a new conversation. I need a user and system prompt to help me generate YouTube chapters given a SRT file with the time codes and the transcript. I'm going to provide that, and I would like you to analyze the transcripts and then use the time codes to first, actually before you re-reference the time codes, the first thing that you need to do is to come up with the best chapters to use. So you have to analyze the transcript and figure out what are the chapters. And then based off of those chapters, you have to find the first associated time code for whatever chapter you decided. Now, please give me the user and system prompt and any placeholders that I need when I implement these prompts to inject the SRT file. When you're done with that, actually, let's do that first. And then I have another question for you. All right, so it says it's done. Let's check out how the app is doing. Let's go to generate chapters. Okay, this is all ready. So if we come back to the code, we need to add the env file equals, jump over to N8N real quick. Let's just go ahead and duplicate this. And we'll take the test over here. Let's go ahead and listen. Now I do think I'll have to restart the server, reload the env file, restart the app. Let's generate the chapters. Let's see what we get in N8N. Got a 500 error. Looks like I didn't save the env file. Let's restart that. Start the app, generate the chapters. All right, so now let's go over to ChatGPT, grab our system prompt here, update the system prompt, grab the user prompt, update that here as well. I am going to put a little return JSON, and then we will put chapters. That way it returns the right. And then we just need to put the placeholder here, execute step. So now there's probably some prompt optimization that we need to do here. Number one, the format is not this. So I'm just going to look at the system prompt. Actually, let's just ask, please make sure you research the chapter formatting for YouTube, and it should start on 0, 0. So it's going to update the system prompt for us. I just wasn't sure what it would do. Just wanted to make sure it did the research. This is what I thought, but I wasn't sure what it would do if it went longer than an hour. So we should just be able to drop this here, and let's rerun this here. All right, cool. So there's probably some optimizations we can do on that for sure. Now I can see here it's returning it as an object, and I just want it to be a string. So I'm just going to correct that here as well. New line instead of an array or an object. There we go. So that's the way we want it. Cool. And then we just need to return that back. I'm going to grab the output here and let the AI know that we're ready. Okay, the N8N automation is ready to go, and here's a sample output so that you can finish the job. Put that in there. All right, there we go. Let's see how it works. Let's go ahead and execute the workflow. Let's refresh the page. Let's check for errors over here. Let's go ahead and generate the chapters, and we got our response back. Perfect. So there we go. So that was a lot to cover in a single video. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and come back for the next video where I work on the script creation and the introduction. Also, if you're interested in vibe coding, make sure to check out my new community. Inside the community, you're going to find a SaaS framework that allows you just to download that and rapidly roll out your own SaaS. It's a fun and an engaged group. I hope to see you there. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one.